What's up, everybody? Matt Kajeski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel, talking some college basketball bets ahead of Tuesday, January the 24th. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. If you're listening on podcast, please leave a rating and review over there too. That helps us a ton, so thank you if you have done that. We are brought to you guys today by DraftKings Sportsbook, and they have a phenomenal limited time offer that you need to be taking advantage of. This offer will only last through February 12th. And what it is, you'll head to DraftKings Sportsbook or just click the link in the video description below. Make your first deposit of at least $5. Make a $5 wager on anything, any game of your choosing. And regardless if that bet wins or not, you are going to be paid out $200 in the form of free bets. That is literally $200 free into your account. All you have to do is make a $5 wager on a game of your choosing. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Thank you to DraftKings. And speaking of some bets, you could place some on one of these that we'll talk about today. We're going to get into 4 really high-profile games tonight, tons of major conference opponents. And we're going to kick things off with Kentucky taking on Vanderbilt, mainly because I think this is a bet we want to jump on early. I took this -4 in favor of Kentucky, seeing it up through -5 right now. And we're talking about all of these bets in our Discord. If you want to get these as early as possible, that's our premium insider access. There's a link to that in the description below too, where we just talk early bets. But Kentucky has a lot of advantages here. First and foremost, Vanderbilt has been playing without their best player, Liam Robbins. And I mean, this is particularly vulnerable for Vanderbilt against a team like Kentucky who plays through Sheboy. Liam Robbins is the best player on their team. He's the best presence in the post this team has. And since he's been out, they lost by double digits to Alabama. That's going to happen. But then they also beat Georgia but didn't cover. So we're already seeing the effects of Liam Robbins being out for Vanderbilt. I don't have high hopes for this team now that he's gone for an extended period of time. And Kentucky made a really tough choice in their lineup. I'm curious to see how this will affect the team moving forward. But they benched Sahvir Wheeler. He got injured, and then this team started a new configuration on the floor, starting 5. And they played significantly better without him. They beat Texas A&M by 9 points, Georgia by double digits. Those aren't the best teams in the conference, but you're still seeing this team essentially find a better starting 5 without him, which is hard to say at this point, but in fact, it is true. So last 2 games, you've had Sahvir Wheeler 8 minutes and 11 minutes. I think we'll continue to see something like that unless something crazy happens to this team. But even diving into the stylistics here, there's very few advantages to Vanderbilt, even when you consider what they've put on the floor so far this year. Kentucky's better in rebounding significantly to 16th to 73rd, 16th to 42nd, and that's with a height disadvantage generally on the court. That'll probably change now that Wheeler's playing less minutes. Kentucky 73rd in effective height. Without baby Sahvir Wheeler on the floor, you're just going to have naturally a taller lineup. And Vanderbilt should be the exact opposite, 48th in effective height, but that should decrease without their best player. From there, Kentucky holds literally every single advantage efficiency-wise, offensive efficiency better, defensive efficiency better. Kentucky struggled on defense against 3-pointers is really the only place they have struggled. They're 199th, but Vanderbilt is a terrible shooting team. They do not shoot 3-pointers well at all. They rank 243rd in 3-point percentage despite taking the 43rd most 3-pointers. So this is a team that very much tries to shoot, except they don't have any good shooters. Really every advantage here lines up for Kentucky. I'm comfortable backing them at the current spread. Again, I took -4. If you want those early lines, check out our premium insider Discord. Next game, we're going to talk Kansas State, Iowa State. This is a fun game to talk about. It's really the 2 kind of different teams that I'm trying to evaluate this year, where Kansas State is a team that I've been trying to buy low on. Iowa State is a team that I'm trying to sell high on and will continue to try to sell high. Kansas State 26th at KenPom, Iowa State 12th. Biggest injury status here is Caleb Grill, who the coaching staff called doubtful, which creates a really interesting problem for Iowa State because this team ranks 194th in bench minutes, and a lot of those bench minutes don't come from Caleb Grill's position. They come from that merry-go-round they're using at forward. And this team is also 6th in experience. So losing a guy like Caleb Grill, who exactly are they going to turn to? And this is kind of the Wisconsin Badgers corollary. The Wisconsin Badgers teach us every single year that Teams that are less talented and more experienced generally start off hot against lower level competition in non-con, against less experienced teams, and then these teams often fade down the stretch, as the Badgers generally tend to do. Now we're throwing an injury into the mix here for Iowa State, a team that has already struggled a little bit in their most recent competition. So all that to say, this is a team that has been a macro sell for me, which I will admit is scary because their coach is awesome. He's overachieved with weak rosters the last 2 years. But you can even dive into their schedule. This is a tale of two very different teams. They beat up on a relatively easy non-con. To start conference play, they beat Baylor without LJ Cryer. And I mean, that Baylor team that doesn't have Cryer, Flagler, they both miss time. Anytime I have to see Dale Bonner get 30 minutes, that's probably a team I want to bet against. But anyway, Iowa State plays Baylor without Cryer, so that was a 30-minute Dale Bonner game. That's not going to be good for anybody. Beat Oklahoma by 3, TCU by 2. They slaughtered Texas Tech without AMAC, lost to Kansas, beat Texas, and then they just lost to Oklahoma State with a hobbled Cisse, their best player. So all this to say, when you evaluate the actual in-conference competition here, they're either winning games against teams without their best players, AMAC, Cryer, or they're barely skirting by teams like Oklahoma, TCU. And in fact, they're losing most recently. So a lot of these coin flip games that were going in their favor to start the conference play have now gone against them. Regardless, Kansas State is the better offensive team. Iowa State does hold a defensive edge, but they allow quite a bit of scoring inside. That's where Kansas State excels, which is, I think, their main primary matchup advantage here. 2-point defense, you have Iowa State ranked 149th, and Kansas State scores inside well. They're also getting healthier. David and Gesson returned to their most recent game, only 4 minutes for him, but they also have Ismail Massoud, Abayomi Iola. We talk about Key Johnson, who's kind of he's a tweener player. You can play 3-4. He's a bit smaller, but he has the forward designation, and he creates unique matchup advantages for Kansas State. Naquan Tomlin, this is a pretty good team in terms of size. Definitely hold a rebounding advantage. They're over 100 spots ahead of Iowa State in terms of rebounding. And this team defends well themselves. Saying Iowa State has a defensive advantage, well, they're fourth in defensive efficiency. Kansas State is 37th. This is a good defensive team in their own right. We're getting 5 points here against the spread. Yes, Iowa State is at home, but Iowa State is injured. Iowa State is a team I'm trying to sell high on. So we'll back Kansas State +5. 2 more games to talk about here. One that I think is heavily affected by injuries, but still a bet nonetheless, is Missouri taking on Ole Miss. I took Missouri +2. They've gone down to +1. They've gone back to +1.5. I'm comfortable with all those numbers, and I'll tell you why, but this might be one to wait on. I'm not exactly sure, and I'm not confident where this line is going to move throughout the day because injuries are such a key factor in the game. Ole Miss's Matt Morrell got injured late in their last game. He's now questionable here. The reports on him have kind of been back and forth. It sounds like he got stepped on, but he was down on the floor for a while, didn't return to the game, and sounds like a true game time decision. Meanwhile, for Missouri, Kobe Brown missed their most recent game, but their coach did a press conference that I actually watched, digging deep for you guys. Basically, what he said was the absence was precautionary. Brown warmed up, but he decided to play it safe and take the long-term approach with Brown. All this to say, if he's warming up and the absence is called just precautionary, I feel a lot better about Kobe Brown playing tonight than Matt Morrell. So already you're working with a bit of leeway here. If you got news 15 minutes before the game after shoot-around that Brown was in and Morrell was out, I think you would probably see Missouri favored in this game. Now, with that said, this is an interesting stylistic matchup for both teams. Missouri excels on offense and Ole Miss excels on defense, and vice versa. They're very weak against the opponent's strength. So Missouri doesn't defend well at all. Ole Miss can't score. But basically, level of competition, I think, is important for both these teams. Ole Miss has struggled immensely in conference play, and that is probably an understatement. They have one conference win. They came against South Carolina, and they've gotten beaten up in a lot of games, whereas Missouri, they've actually played pretty well during conference play. They've battled a lot of injuries on their roster so far this year, and they have the ability to score. This is a great shooting team. They're strong inside. They actually shoot the three fairly well, too, and they take a ton of them. The one place Ole Miss doesn't defend that well is the perimeter. They're 146th in perimeter defense. So a strong shooting team like Missouri can exploit that. And then you also look at turnovers. This Ole Miss team is horrific taking care of the ball. They are also facing a Missouri team, which I think should be able to generate some turnovers here. Ultimately, that's probably a strength for both of these teams, taking advantage of turnover proneness from the opposing offense. I'm not sure how much of an advantage that is, but you look at Missouri, this team is third in the country at forcing turnovers, and Ole Miss is 234th at turnovers committed. That's a big mismatch here in favor of Missouri. So overall, enough advantages here. We're all back to Tigers. I think anything, unless they're favored, I'd be backing Missouri here. But right now you can find them as a dog, so we'll continue to play them. Last one here I took North Carolina minus 4.5 against Syracuse. They're the away team here. But this comes down to really every advantage, I think, going down to North Carolina. And North Carolina is the team that's been more injured this year. So if you're looking at like buy low in terms of efficiency metrics, well, Baycott's been banged up at times. He played 1 minute in one game, played through an ankle sprain and some others. They also haven't had Pete Nance for a while. He's back, which is awesome because now I don't have to see Puff Johnson and these other scrubs that North Carolina has on their bench play minutes. Even though I don't think Pete Nance is some real difference maker for this team, I do believe he's better than the other players that have been playing behind him. So to quickly talk about efficiency advantages, North Carolina 43rd in offensive efficiency, Syracuse is 67th. On defense, North Carolina 127th, Syracuse 148th. North Carolina dominates on the interior. They're 59th in interior scoring. Syracuse actually defends that fairly well, but this is a thin Syracuse team overall in terms of their interior. You basically have Jesse Edwards, who fouls at one of the highest rates in the country. And behind him, you have the revolving door of Malik Brown and Benny Williams, who continue to alternate between 8 minutes and 30-minute games. No confidence in either of them defending Baycott. And again, Pete Nance is back. So great. I don't want to see any more Seth Tremble or Puff Johnson, Tyler Nickel, which is awesome for this team. Rebounding advantage starkly in favor of North Carolina, 19th in the country, Syracuse, 92nd. Shooting, this actually favors Syracuse, but they haven't been taking a ton of threes this year. They're 327th in three-point attempts per game, which is a horrific number for this team. And then lastly, you look at the defensive side of the ball. North Carolina's pretty good at taking care of the ball. They don't commit a lot of turnovers. They hold the edge here over Syracuse as well. So we'll back them minus 4.5 as well to close this out. That'll do it for us with the Odd Shopper channel. Let me know what you think about these plays, any others you guys might have taken in the comment section. I'd love to hear about it. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Matt_Gajeski. We'll continue to do these videos, I think, every day except Sunday. So stick around, catch all the videos. And as usual, hit me up if you have any questions. Until next time, good luck, everyone. We'll see you again later.